Welcome to the Power Up Your Marriage and Business podcast. We're your hosts, Robert and Kaylee Fukui. I know we're supposed to say we created this podcast for you, but we really created this for us. Because one of the power struggles we witnessed growing up and now dealing with in the present is balancing the needs of the business with priorities of marriage. Does this sound familiar?
As children of entrepreneurs, we're often on the receiving end of that struggle. Parents worked so hard to provide that they did not have time for us. We realized it wasn't their fault. They did only what they knew. But not wanting to repeat the past, we've been intentional about building a business that we run as opposed to it running us.
Every day we fight to keep the priorities the priority: faith, family, and finance, or the business. Some think it's impossible, but we say it's possible. You just need to challenge the false belief that a successful business only comes at the sacrifice of your family. It doesn't have to happen that way, and we know we're not the only couple to think this way and achieve it.
If you listen to some of our past episodes and tune in for future ones, you will hear from some amazing marriage experts and entrepreneur couples that have been able to build a thriving marriage and prosperous business at the same time.
So that's why we created this podcast, to be in the front row and hear from others that have gone before us. And from time to time, we'll share what has worked for us as well. But we know there's more to learn and want to take you along for the ride with us. We may never get it perfect, but with intention, we can all build a thriving marriage and prosperous business. So thank you for listening. Sit back, get comfortable, and let's power up your marriage and business. Hey, power couples, welcome back to this week's episode.
Hi, you guys.
And we're going to talk about always prepare or lose the opportunity, or always be prepared or lose the opportunity.
That sounds like a big topic.
It is a big topic. And this came up because, we just last weekend watched the Kentucky Derby.
I know. Wasn't that really fascinating?
And if you have not seen it, it's an amazing race. It's talk about the comeback story. And so Rich Strike won the race, but he was 80-1 odds, the second longest odds in Kentucky Derby history to win a race.
So are they going to make a movie about this?
Undoubtedly it's going to be a movie. I mean, if you watch the race, just go on YouTube and watch the race, because this is a Hollywood movie for sure. I mean, this is a Hollywood ending.
Right.
I mean, when the movie comes out and they show the horse race, the Kentucky Derby, which will probably, I'm assuming, is going to be towards the end of the movie, it's going to look like it's just a Hollywood script. Like, oh yeah, come from behind from last place. And, he's already, and then I think around going into the last turn, he was in 17th out of 20.
Yeah, he was pretty far back there.
He was way back, and he kind of moved up a little bit. By the time he hit the home stretch, he might have been around 15th or 14th position, but he was also very packed in and behind and packed in, and then the leaders were moving away, were stretching out their lead, and he just kind of weaved his way through traffic, because there's a great overhead view of the race. And you just see how he started weaving through traffic a little bit. And then all of a sudden, things started to open up a little bit for him. And he was able to get to the inside rail. And it wasn't until maybe halfway down the home stretch, where he was still, I think, about 5th, 6th position. And again, the two leaders, everybody was focused on the two favorites, which were in the lead. And they were kind of moving away. But all of a sudden, I mean, it looked like Rich Strike was just passing everybody. Everybody was standing still.
Right, and the inside, I mean, nobody was there in the inside lane.
Everything started to open up for him. And he still had to weave a little bit, but then then it was all of a sudden he was in third, but he was still pretty far behind. And again, all the eyes were on their favorites. Even the announcer didn't really even call his name until, I don't know, 100 yards to the end, and that's when he was like, "Oh my gosh, Rich Strike 80-1, the longest odds, is about to win," because he just caught him. Yeah, he caught him at the end, and he won by 3/4 of a length.
He got momentum, and he just kept going.
I mean, he was picking up speed. It seemed like all the way to the end, and so you look at that race, and it's a Hollywood. It's a Hollywood.
Well, who doesn't love a good?
I mean, that is a script for Hollywood for sure. But this was real life.
Well, and who doesn't love a good underdog story?
Yeah. And so, if you're not familiar with horse racing, but, the inside rail is, if you're looking at the starting gate, from right to left, right is the very inside. And then the far left would be obviously the outside, and basically you're in the last position, because then you have to come all the way across the track to get towards the inside rail. So you're basically starting behind, right? Even though they're technically all starting at the same line, but because when you're at the far left, you kind of have to make your way towards the inside. You have some ground to make up, right? And he was 80-1 odds, and he wasn't even supposed to race till the morning before.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, so he wasn't actually officially in the race until a horse scratched Friday morning, the morning before the race. One horse scratched, and so that put him in.
Yeah, you never know. These last minute things can happen, and
yeah, so that's why if you know horse racing, right, your number of the horse is based on the gate you start from, like 1 through, and in this case 1 through 20. His number, Rich Strike's number, was 21. So he didn't even technically have a gate, right? But he was in because of a scratch, and so he wasn't even supposed to race. But here he goes, and he wins the Kentucky Derby. and then but the story is even better because it goes back to 2016, where the owner of the horse, he lost 23 horses in a barn fire.
Oh, that's so sad.
And it was a lightning strike. The barn caught fire. Fortunately, the other 2 barns did not catch fire, so there's 13 horses that survived, but 23 horses were killed.
That's a lot.
And the owner was basically like, this is it. We're done. And he basically wanted to, pack it in. But he was getting calls and texts from other owners and trainers around the country and saying, don't give up, don't let this do you in. And so he was getting encouragement from other owners. And so he stuck it out, obviously. Picked up this horse, Rich Strike, for $30,000.
Well, yeah, I'm sure at that point you just want to give up. You just want to walk away and say, what, I'm done with this. This is too much heartache, and it's just tough.
Yeah, and so, but he did keep on going. He did pick up this horse, Rich Strike, for $30,000, which
that's a steal.
It's just a steal, right? Exactly.
Considering that he won.
Yeah, and so, and they were just preparing, right? And when you're, it's easy to kind of, technically he knew he wasn't entered in the race. He was an alternate, of course, but still, leading up to the day before, and you're still not in the race, trying to keep the horse ready for the opportunity.
Well, that's a tough spot to be. You're there, but you're not going to race. So it's like, so we're here. I don't,
and so
I don't really know what the point is.
Yeah, so you always got to be prepared, because you never know when opportunity knocks, right? And if the opportunity knocks and you're not prepared, and they asked him, after the horse and the trainer after the race, were you surprised by the win? Because obviously his long shot, he wasn't even entered in the race officially until the day before. And he said, we never enter a horse that we're not expecting to win, or at least have a chance to win. Right? So they're always preparing the horse, no matter what. And they always want to make sure the horse they do put in is best prepared to potentially win.
And the jockey as well, too.
And the jockey. And so, it's all first. The horse actually had won once before, but only 1 out of 7 races. So he wasn't, some of the other horses,
like
3 to 3. Yeah, some of the other horses have won multiple times. One was 3 for 3, only entered 3 races, but won all 3. And then the owner, trainer, and rider had never been in a Kentucky Derby.
Yeah, so that's all new for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
First.
Yeah. So no one had been in a Kentucky Derby, and yet here they are, longest odds, and they win.
So what were the odds? Do you remember?
80-1.
Wow.
80-1. And so, so that's that race basically prompted this episode to talk about always being prepared for the opportunity, because sometimes the opportunity is not there, has an expiration date. A lot of times opportunities have an expiration date. It's there or it, and that, or it might be one and done.
Very small window, yeah. And you know what? I notice this a lot in sports.
Oh yeah.
Like, especially like football. They'll have like the star player, and something happens, they get hurt along the way.
Yeah. So
And it opens up the door, an opportunity.
Kurt Warner, Tom Brady, Tony Romo, Dak Prescott, all these
Greats.
great quarterbacks and, Hall of Fame quarterbacks got their opportunity because, unfortunately, someone goes down.
They didn't start out in the number one.
No, they're second string, and then the starting quarterback goes down with an injury, and they have to come in the middle of the game, and do it, and then play the rest of the season. Yeah, so they always have to be prepared, right? And especially when you're Tom Brady and basically all of those quarterbacks that I just mentioned were starting behind some really good quarterbacks and even potentially Hall of Fame quarterbacks, and so you're not really expecting to go in.
No, and those are some pretty big shoes to fill too.
Yeah, but they're always preparing. You got to always be prepared, and if you're not prepared well, and you go out there, you get in the game, and you stink. Well, guess what? The coach is going to go with somebody else, the third string quarterback.
Right, and you saw like with Tony Romo, then he moved into that number one slot with the quarterback, and then eventually, unfortunately, he got hurt, and then they moved up the person underneath him.
Yeah, which is kind of ironic because let me see if I got this straight. Tom Brady got the opportunity to play in New England when Drew Bledsoe went down. Drew Bledsoe got traded to the Cowboys. He was starting for the Cowboys. He went down. Tony Romo came in.
Oh, really? That's how that came about.
And then fast forward, Tony Romo gets injured and Dak Prescott comes in. So there's a cycle of, they're good quarterbacks, they go down, somebody else comes in, they become good quarterbacks, and then they go down. And so it's interesting how you've got to, again, moral of the story is always being prepared. Because if you just think, oh, I'm second string, I'm just going through the motions in practice and all that. But these are guys that were always, making sure they were, practicing well and being prepared and, watching game tape and really analyzing defenses and all that and be preparing like they're going to play. Because you never know when you're going to get the opportunity.
Because there's, like you said, there's a short window. And when Tony Romo got hurt, the other guy got to move up into his position, at least prove himself. But if he wasn't able to prove himself in that short window, I'm sure they would have moved somebody else.
They'll move on to somebody else.
So it was a small window.
Yeah. So, you always have to be in the mindset of preparing. So what does that have to do with business? Well, it's the same thing, right? Always be prepared for that opportunity for expansion or for a potential new client or new product launch or something. How can you be prepared? And we hear too many times that, I'll hear, oh, I'll prepare once I get the opportunity.
Yeah, I don't have time.
Yeah, exactly. So I'll prepare once I get the opportunity. But then, like we said, the opportunity a lot of times has an expiration date, and you may be too late. So let's just say you have a restaurant, but then all of a sudden you get this opportunity to cater a Hollywood event, but you don't have the equipment. You don't have the extra personnel potentially, because obviously you need some personnel that aren't working during the restaurant hours. And maybe
you're going to need some pricing. You're going to need a menu.
Well, you might need a special license or certificate to cater, as opposed to just in restaurants. Right?
Insurance.
So, yeah, and special insurance for that. And so, those are things. There's a lot of things you can do to prepare for that opportunity, even without having to invest with more catering equipment.
Right.
So just, getting additional insurance or knowing the moment you do get the opportunity, hey, just call the insurance agent and say, hey, can you add on X whatever for catering insurance, whatever.
Or knowing all the vendors, like where are you going to get your supplies from?
Knowing vendors, right. Knowing, where you can potentially just rent the catering equipment, right? So you may not need to purchase it, but just knowing where to rent it.
Or knowing somebody that can partner with you to do this big thing if you've not done it before because they're an expert at that, and you can collaborate together, like your network.
Exactly. Yeah, so there's a lot of things you can do to prepare for the opportunity. Once the opportunity happens, that doesn't even have to cost you money. Because a lot of times people think of preparing as investing into all this stuff. Because, I don't have the money and I don't have the time to invest in all this stuff. But you don't need to necessarily have the money, because like what we're talking about there is just collaborating with other people, and then knowing where to just rent stuff before you have to purchase it, right? So those are things where, but the moment you get that opportunity, you know you can pick up the phone and put things together pretty quick.
Right.
Right? As opposed to if you've never done any of that research and background preparation, the opportunity comes and then you're scrambling.
Yeah, because you don't have that kind of time or those resources to do all that. Try and figure it all out.
Yeah. Or even maybe you have I guess stick in the restaurant thing. You have a good barbecue. A barbecue
You're trying to make
restaurant.
me hungry.
Yeah.
Now I want barbecue.
Barbecue
ribs,
restaurant.
honey.
And maybe there's the sauce is really great and there's an opportunity to sell in Costco.
Yeah.
But they need, they're looking for a product to get put on the shelves within a certain period of time. And they have 2 other candidates to decide on to put that barbecue sauce in the on the shelf. And so, knowing how are you going to package it?
Yeah, how are you going to bottle it?
Right. So are you going to use a co-packer or a commercial kitchen to make the sauce and bottle it and all that?
How are you going to ship
the labels, the shipping, all those things, all the logistics. You don't need to necessarily have invested into all that right away, but you need to know what you need to do.
Yeah. Do you need a patent?
In order to, you typically don't patent recipes. You just keep it a secret.
But I mean, the logistics of it.
The logistics of packaging and distributing your barbecue sauce.
Do you have contracts?
Contracts, yep, contracts
ahead of time,
yep. Exactly. So there's the legal issue around that. So, those are all things that you can be prepared.
Makes me think of a book too. Do you have your book written? Because what if a publisher comes and says, "Hey, I love what you're doing. I'd love to publish your book. Can you send me the manuscript?" What are you going to say?
Well, we're writing a book right now, honey. What do we say?
Yes, we can. Yes, we have it.
Whether you want to actually publish or not. So, actually, our publicist actually told us that story of how he had an opportunity to speak at an event, but the organizer wanted him to have a book there to sell at the event, and the event was in 2 months.
Right. He's like, but you have to have the book.
Maybe 2.5. And so, he had to have a book in order to speak. And so he put the book together. Now, fortunately, he's had a little bit of experience in that area, but still,
That's a lot.
Yeah. So how do you may have thought or even been asked about writing a book or whatever. What would you do if the opportunity to write a book and promote it came about and you had 2 months to do it?
Wow. That's all I can say. Because if a publisher comes to you and asks for your book, they're wanting it right now. They're not wanting it like 2 years later.
Yeah. Usually publishers doesn't give you just 2 months. I mean, there's usually a little bit more bandwidth than that. But still, there's a timeline. Typically,
right.
Yeah, they do want it in a certain period of time because they have periods of time during the year in which they want to publish books. So, those are things where journaling, blogging, doing a podcast, things where you're putting out content on a regular basis would help you if the opportunity did come to write a book, like for us or like our publicists, that we have content out there. We just need to get it organized into a book form, right? And so there's things you can definitely, because I've heard a number of people, I don't know because we're focused on that because we're writing our coming out with our book, but I hear a number of people talking about potentially writing a book, but we're not there yet. It takes time and all that kind of stuff, which obviously it does. And I always tell them, I'm like, well, do you blog? Do you have a podcast? Do you have something where you're writing content? And a lot of them say no. I said, well, do that.
Right.
And then what you'll find out over the course of a year or 2 years, you'll have the content for the book. You just need to now prepare it and edit it in book form.
Well, and I think the content is a really good point that you brought up because you can do so much with the content. Like if you want to do a speaking engagement and someone says, hey, I need you to come speak on leadership next weekend.
Yeah.
And then you're like, hey, I just happen to have the content already written up from something else I was doing. And then there you go. As opposed to, I'm sorry, I don't have anything that I can speak on.
Right. Right. Because we all have a story and something to say. We just need to kind of put it in some kind of written form for prepared. And so, well, honey, do you have anything that maybe you had a lost opportunity or something that you prepared for? Because I have kind of a story, which, well, you know me, I'm always trying to be prepared. But
You're Mr. Proactive.
yeah, so this is kind of a interesting take on preparing for opportunity, because there was a period in my last corporate job where the rumors were flying about layoffs coming. And so they're coming fast and furious, and they seem pretty legit. So I started putting out, and actually there was an announcement that did come out about some changes that are going to be made in the company. So basically what I did, I started calling different recruiters that had contacted me before about, trying to woo me away from the company. But then, so when this opportunity of potentially being laid off came about, I, reached out to the recruiters, and then I started scheduling interviews, just in case I did get laid off. And so, I had one interview that was scheduled probably 3 days after the announcement came out that we're going to find out who's staying and who's going, basically. And so I already had an interview lined out and everything. I think actually I might have already. I hadn't interviewed yet. But so, anyways, the word came out. I got the call. Fortunately, I didn't lose my job, and then I canceled the interview. But that's kind of a way of preparing for opportunity, preparing for the opportunity of being laid off. So, why wait till the end or when the actual decision does come down? Let's put out the feelers now, because obviously once people do find out they get laid off, they're going to be probably reaching out to the same recruiters I did. So you might as well get ahead of the game, right? So that's a little bit of a backwards way of talking about preparing for opportunity. But I don't know if you have anything, honey.
Well, I used to believe, not anymore, that opportunities happen to other people and not to me. Mm-hmm. And it was so easy for me to see the opportunities for other people. And I'm thinking, how come I don't get any opportunities? It always, then you just think it doesn't happen to you after a while. But I learned from you, because you're so proactive. Like, okay, try and get all this stuff ahead of time so that we are ready for when we need it. That it kind of like shifted my mindset, and now I am starting to think more that way, and I can see the opportunities ahead of time. Like, I know in my mind what I want to do, so I try and get ready for that. So when the opportunity shows up, I'm ready. Where before, I guess I couldn't see that.
Mm-hmm. That's a good point, because a lot of times we miss the opportunity because we just don't see it.
Right.
We're not focused on that. It's just like that game Punch Bug. As kids, whenever you see a Volkswagen Bug, when you're riding in the back seat of your parents' car, whenever you see a Volkswagen Bug, you slug your brother or sister. And then, on a normal day, you wouldn't see any Volkswagen Bugs. But then all of a sudden, once you're focused on looking for a bug, then all of a sudden you start seeing all these Volkswagen Beetles, right? So that's kind of a similar concept.
Well, I think once you focus on, like you said, what you want and where you want to go, then it's easier to see the opportunities.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
As opposed to, I don't know what I want to do, or I'm just going to try everything.
Yeah. So I think getting focused on what you want, and starting to put that preparation into place, that not only will you be prepared for the opportunity when it comes, but you also see the opportunity
right
when they come around. Because I think we do miss opportunities.
And you never know. It could be a short window that it comes, and it could take a long time for that opportunity to come. So just being prepared.
Yeah, that's the one thing about these things, is sometimes the timing is not the way we want it. And so, I think preparation doesn't guarantee the opportunity comes tomorrow, but it can help. It's not a guarantee, but it definitely helps you be ready to jump once the opportunity arises, and for you to actually see it as well.
Well, and I think too that doing the preparation can help you to help other people, because sometimes you're like, okay, I'm going to do this because I think this is the preparation I want to do, and then you meet someone that needs help in that area, and you're able to help them.
Yeah. And here's a cheap and easy way to prepare for an opportunity is purchase a domain name.
That's a good start.
Every time, especially in business, every time someone has an idea, I say, oh, you should purchase that domain name. I mean, it's, on GoDaddy, it's 1 cent for the first year and then $20 a year after that. So anyways, that's an inexpensive way to prepare for opportunity, is buy the domain name.
And some people do that for a business.
They do. They
try and buy them all
I forgot
up.
what they call. I don't think they call them squatters, but basically they buy up a bunch of domain names and then hold them as basic investment in case something comes up, and then they
till somebody wants it,
and then they sell it.
Charge you all
they
kinds of money.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, $20 a year, and you can sell it for a couple grand, $5,000. Yeah, it's pretty good money. It's a good return. Somebody in Canada had bought. I remember I heard somebody in Canada had bought Snickers.com years ago, obviously, before internet was as big as it is, and so they ended up making a little bit of money on that.
A little bit of
domain name, selling it to M&M Mars.
Or they buy people's names.
Yeah, that too.
Because people want their personal name, of course.
Yeah. So I'm probably giving suggestions to an idea to someone right now. They're probably on GoDaddy right now buying up domain names. So, anyways, I think so. That's our episode on preparing for opportunity, honey.
Yeah.
So hopefully
So it's not wasted. It might not need it right at. Sorry, honey, I didn't mean to interrupt you. It might not be you need it right at this moment, but prepare for your future.
Yeah. Just like even us preparing to potentially move, cleaning up the house, getting rid of stuff, right?
Yeah, going through stuff. It feels good too.
Yeah.
Purging.
And so you might been you're hearing about the book, and so that's coming out hopefully in August, September. We'll be coming out with a book that's really a guide for married entrepreneurs to help you with better work-life balance. So watch out for that.
Yeah,
That's
we're pretty excited about it. It's been a labor of love.
Yeah, exactly. So, hey, this was, I think, a great episode of really, inspired by a horse race. But hopefully this is helpful that, some things that you might be putting off because, I'm not ready for it. I'm not, whatever the case may be, I don't have time. I don't have the money, whatever. There are things that you can do to prepare for that potential opportunity you're talking about that you're not ready for, but doesn't mean that you can't start preparing for it.
Right.
Right. And then maybe that's the reason why you're not ready for it is because you're not prepared for it.
Well, and then how can somebody help you if you're not ready or if you don't know what you want? So.
Yeah, exactly. So hopefully this was helpful. And if you like this episode, please share it. And also leave a 5-star review if you can, if you're on iTunes or Apple Podcasts, or I don't know what other players allow you to review, but I know Apple Podcasts is one of the few. But anyways, please share it and leave a review if you can. And also just, get a hold of us and say hi. And
go on our website, powercouplesbydesign.com, and leave us a message. There's all kinds of free content there for you guys. And we just want to say thank you so much. We appreciate you. Yeah.
Thanks for listening through, over 100 episodes now. And the audience is growing, so which is awesome. That's reassuring to us that people are listening and it's growing. So we really appreciate it. Yeah, exactly. So, hey, God bless everyone, and we'll see you next week. Thank you for listening to the Power Up Your Marriage and Business podcast. If you found this episode to be valuable, please leave a rating and share it with an entrepreneur couple you know.
Yes, and remember to hit the subscribe button so that you'll get all of our latest episodes, and visit our website, Power Couples by Design, to access a variety of free resources to help your marriage and business, like our weekly videos and on-demand webinars. And don't forget to download our free 8-step guide that you can find on our homepage to help your marriage and business thrive.
We're here to help you build a thriving marriage and a prosperous business. God bless your marriage and business. See you next week.